All right. Hi. It's so good to see you out there. I hope that you are having a good time playing piano, and I'm really excited that you're exploring the music that we're working on. Thank you all so much for your patience on these videos. I have a really full life. I have 2 young kids and a couple of dogs and a day job, and these videos are so much fun to make, so I'm so glad that you're here and that you're playing. Because that's really what it's all about. And this music is so much fun to do. So thank you for being here. Let's get into it. This is one that's been on my to-do list forever. I think this one was my introduction to Goose, was that Peach Fest set and the tune Arcadia. It really sticks out in their catalog. It's probably the quintessential Goose song. And it gives us a ton of really fun stuff to work on. So let's get into it. I think... First off, this one really lends itself to thinking about the clavinet and the clavinet sound. And Peter from Goose is such a master of that sound. So I have a Nord Electro 4 here. I don't have my Yamaha set up today. But on the Electro 4, it has such a wonderful clavinet, and I use a pedal wah setting of the onboard effects from the Nord, and then I have a controller pedal. It's like a Moog controller pedal. It's plugged into the Nord, and that makes it, gives it the wah, which is really important to get your clavinet sounding right. The other settings I have on the clav are, it's in the CA for the model, and then brilliant and treble, and the PWA setting, and then it's running through like the twin amp modeler setting with like a little bit of distortion, not a ton. That right around there is pretty good. I'm a little below half on the drive on the amp. And so that sound is really wonderful. You can get all low and chunky with it. It's a really fun sound to work with. All right. Well, anyways, this song is in my least favorite key. It's in C sharp. It actually works out okay. This one, like most of the vibe of it, is C sharp mixolydian. So C sharp, D sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, and C sharp. So it's like a C sharp major scale with a flat 7. And that's like total jam band. It's very much like the Grateful Dead Fire on the Mountain type sound, is that mixolydian scale. You see it a lot in this type of music. So for the intro, they're really doing actually very similar to that Fire on the Mountain vibe. Is like they're in a major key, and then they step down to that flat 7 for the next chord. So it goes from a C sharp major down to like a B major, and that's kind of the vibe of it. It's funny, on keyboards, when you play that major third in this setting, it can sound really dorky. Whereas Rick's playing guitar and it sounds all cool and chill. And I have found on keys, it's often best to just leave the 5th or the 3rd out of the chord and just play the root in the 5th, so C sharp and G sharp. And that applies to a lot of rock and funk music, is that sometimes you have to be careful about the 3rd on keys. I don't know why that is. It's just how keyboards work, is that it can be very dorky sounding. And it's a dorky instrument where we all, as keyboardists, are like guys, middle-aged guys with glasses, and it's just, this is our art. This is what we do. So when you're playing and you're hitting that major 3rd and it sounds kind of cheesy or dorky, try just omitting it and playing the root in the 5th. And you can really just kind of float around that mixolydian scale. And working the wah pedal to... And that's the intro to the song. It's just floating around in those two chords, C sharp and B major. And that little riff is a G sharp to B, to G sharp to F sharp to E and C sharp. And that brings up a point that I think is really important here, and in a lot of types of music, is a lot of my favorite music is a little ambiguous as to whether it's in major or minor. Like Lowrider. Let's look at that for example, and then I'll be back to Arcadia in just a second, I promise. The bass line to Lowrider is going up this G minor pentatonic scale with the B flat in it because it's the G minor pentatonic scale. But then the that horn part comes in and it's using B natural, the major. I can't play those at the same time without practicing it first. I shouldn't have tried. But anyways, the whole point is that that's a song where it's using both the minor and the major third, and it's a little ambiguous as to whether the song is in G minor or G major. This song works that way too, because the chords are very clearly C sharp major and B, but then that little riff comes in, and it's using the minor third, that E. And this is another reason why, as a keyboardist, it can be really helpful to stay away from the third, or just embrace that ambiguity, because it makes music a lot more interesting than just like just pounding the chords as they are. Is like and you can start to explore that and be okay with the fact that it's really not fully in C sharp major, even though it is. The riff is using the minor third. So that's sort of what makes it sound funky and interesting and really draws you into the song. The singing comes in over that. Every time you do it, you're never gonna get used to it. Hanging on that's over that C sharp minor. And then when Rick leads into the verse for real, down the line, I'm just fine. So what that is a G sharp minor chord, G sharp, B, and D sharp, and then an F sharp major chord, F sharp, A sharp, and C, and then E major, E, G sharp, and B. And see, there's that minor third E again, and then that just goes back up to the F sharp major chord. Well, I'm just fine. And then we're grooving in C sharp again with that little minor riff. And here are the chords under the verses. And I don't know the lyrics to this song that well, so I'm just gonna kind of like mutter it. That's what I have to do. Is all that I have to learn. It's no wonder that you found me buried right beneath my wing. Every time you do it, you're never gonna get used to it. Okay, and there you go. So under the verse, the first chord is a C sharp. One is all that I have to give. There's A sharp minor, A sharp, C sharp, and F. Then that goes down to a G sharp major chord, G sharp, C, and D sharp. Then F sharp major, F sharp, A sharp, and C sharp. Then A major, A, C sharp, and E, up to B. And then we go back to C sharp major. And then instead of going to the A sharp minor like we did last time, this is where it gets kind of cool, is he uses the flat 6, which is A major. So A, C sharp, and E. And this is the one that walks down chromatically. F sharp, down to E major, and then A, up to B. And then the chorus is just on the that C sharp sort of funky grooving. Stumble every time you do it. I'm gonna get used to it. All right, and then there's that bridge section, and we're gonna use an organ for that. See all the light from the bottom of the spine. Don't hang your head, 'cause I'm just fine. And then you're back to C sharp again. So that is G sharp minor, G sharp, B, and D sharp, F sharp major, F sharp, A sharp, and C, and then E, G sharp, F sharp, and then C sharp major, which is C sharp, F, and G sharp, G sharp minor, F sharp major, E, and then you sit on that E and back up to F sharp, and then you're back into C sharp minor land. So it's really easy enough. And then we've talked about pretty much the whole song. And this, sitting on that C sharp with that Mixolydian scale, that's where they open up the improv. And so you just explore that around. They find a chord progression in the one that we're going to talk about. So you're just using that scale. C sharp, D sharp, F, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, and C sharp. And I'm ripping around it pretty quickly, but you don't have to. You can do a lot of cool ideas without going crazy on it. So sometimes, you just find things to say, even if they're not super fast or really impressive to anybody. If you can find a little bit of soul or a melodic line that you can repeat that people can grab onto, that can make you a very successful improviser. So try to dig around and find stuff like that. Totally worthwhile. Now, I'm going to really quickly talk about, so we've been in C sharp, Mixolydian land, and they've improvise their way around. They sort of find some chord progressions that they latch onto as a group. And then you have this outro part where Rick really starts ripping into it. And that's C sharp major again. And now they're going to use that flat 6 idea again and go to A major. F sharp major. E. And then A major. And then B major, and it just goes around and around like that. And in this case, what you're really using is more of a C sharp minor scale. Except when that F sharp major chord is happening, there's an A sharp in that. So this one's a little less clear, and you may want to stick closer to the chord tones as they're going by, or just arpeggiate them. So it'd be like that C sharp major, just an arpeggio, A major arpeggio, and then that's F sharp major arpeggio, E major arpeggio, A, and then B. And you can really make a lot out of just using the chord tones. But for most of this, except for when the F sharp major chord is going by, you can use that C sharp minor scale. Here's that F sharp major, F sharp major, so I'm using an A sharp. Then the E. Then you go back to that minor idea. I guess actually when the C sharp chord's going by, you also want to use C sharp major. So you're kind of flip-flopping between major and minor when that A chord's in effect. Back to major, back to minor, and then you stay minor. Yeah, it's still minor for the B chord. And then you're back to C sharp. And they just chase that around. It gets bigger and bigger with Rick, doing his crazy stuff. And then it, the last time through, you just go from that A. And it ends on that C sharp, just a quick hit, bop, and out. So those are all the structural pieces. We're going to play along with the one from Goose last year, which I believe is December 13th, 2024, if I recall correctly. A really cool show, the Bingo Show. So let's play through it and get into it and see what we find. All right, so we're going to play along with the Goose Arcadia from 2024, the Bingo Show. Here it comes. I'm going to get my clavinet fired up again like we talked about before. I got the wah pedal going on it, a little bit of drive. The brilliant treble sounds are activated. There's a bunch of... All the different effects on it are pretty subtle, but I use the CA setting on a Nord. If you don't have a Nord, kind of do the best you can. Sometimes your electric piano sound is going to be better if you have just a garbage clav. Just find a good Rhodes. And that's going to sound great. You're better off using a good Rhodes if you have one, because most keyboards have a good one. A little drive on it, maybe a little tremolo, than a bad clav, because a lot of keyboards have lousy clav sounds. The Nord one is really exceptional. So we're in that C sharp minor, or C sharp major down to B major, that Mixolydian idea. So I'm just riffing around that C sharp Mixolydian scale.
Stumble every time you do it. Ain't never gonna get used to it. Hanging on a garden wall, so I take the way that my love goes. Oh Lord, I didn't see it coming. Arcadia's got me running, just trying not to lose my breath. Decided I'm gonna take that step.
So here comes that G sharp minor, F sharp major, E. We're gonna stay on E, up to F sharp major, and now we're back into that C sharp groove. And there's that little riff that uses the E natural. Alright, so here we're in the verse. Now we're going to go down to A sharp minor, G sharp major, F sharp major, A major, B major. We repeat that. Well, C sharp major. Now I go to the A major. That goes chromatically down to F sharp, down to E, A, and then B major. And then we're back to C sharp Mixolydian for the chorus. G sharp minor, F sharp major, E, G sharp minor, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, F sharp, E, and that's E to F sharp. There you go. Alright, I'll get back to the clav. It might be helpful when you're riffing on the clav to think of that C sharp as like an A sharp minor over C sharp that goes down to F sharp major. Something to think about. Alright, so now we're back in the verse. That's the first half of the verse. Now we're in C sharp major. Down to A. This one goes chromatic. E. A. Back to the chorus. So here you can use that idea of A sharp minor over C sharp, and then that goes down to like an F sharp major. And that's just like an alternate framing if that helps your brain think about what this is. We're going back to that B section. G sharp minor, F sharp, and then E. G sharp, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, F sharp, E, and we stay on E up to F sharp. And there you go. At this point I think we're in jam town, but I'm not 100%. So now you're in C sharp mixolydian. And they do a really good job of writing songs that are, you can instantly kind of get your head around, but then they always have this interesting wrinkle to them, you know, that ambiguity between major and minor, the use of the flat six. It's really great stuff, and it's like so fundamentally strong. I think it's a big part of what makes them stick out from a really crowded pack of pure bands. Is they have something, and they work really hard. It's impressive. Sometimes I like to just go from the seventh, which is B in this case, and then you take it down to the A sharp. You can also take it up to the 1. Okay, so he's using that mixolydian scale, and that's B and D sharp going down to A sharp and C sharp. And you know, a lot of people need help demystifying this kind of improvisation, and what you have is kind of your set of most likely notes. In this case, is that C sharp mixolydian scale, and you're just building things out of that. So every note I'm hitting is part of that C sharp mixolydian scale. And you're chasing ideas, and then as you get more comfortable in ideas, you may start to push outside of that mixolydian scale, which is going to escalate tension because you're hitting notes that don't belong. I think I just heard a minor third in there. But it's this gradual process of pushing out and seeing how things feel and trying ideas. And now he's going from C sharp to D sharp. Again, they're still in the mixolydian scale. And it all sounds good, because that's the vibe here. It's kind of a one-chord mixolydian jam at its heart. And they're just trying things out. They're coming up, going down. You got to keep your ears open in this kind of music. It's so important. You can hear him just noodling up and down that pentatonic or that mixolydian scale, and they're just looking for what the next idea is going to be. And Peter's got like a phaser on his clav. See, they found a chord progression. it's C sharp major down to B. It's F sharp. And then I'm trying to find that fourth chord. All right, now we're on a piano sound. C sharp down to B, and then F sharp down to C sharp major again. And if you notice, all those chords fit into our C sharp mixolydian, as in all of the chord tones come out of that scale, and that's how they found their way there. And when you've been playing with guys for a long time, you find this common vocabulary. You can pick up on things quickly, which allows you to find these chord progressions and really rip into them. It's really cool. Around and around, and what they're so good at is starting small, really starting to inhabit an idea and building it bigger and bigger in that really gradual and satisfying way. And that's something to really think about in your music, is what's your narrative? Where are you starting and where are you going? Because if you just come in and you're just like, and it's like, if you start there, where are you going to go? So you got to start real small and with that subtle. And you'd want to match the energy of everyone in your group, so that when you're big, you're all big together. And when you're small, you're all small together. And you can, as a group, make something that's bigger than any single one of you. Good stuff. Out of something really simple, 3 chords. C sharp, B, F sharp, C sharp, around and around. And to fill in these so you're not just playing the chords, use that C mixolydian scale. And, you come up the scale note by note, find stuff jumping around in it. Find somewhere to park and raise tension. And now they kind of crested that wave, and so they're coming off of it, and they're going to find what's next. And it's just, it flows. That's the beauty of this type of music. And you can hear Rick's tossing out that minor third. The whole vibe is going minor. So now we're going to C sharp minor. C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, and C. See that there's that nice contrast. If we started in C sharp major, now we're in C sharp minor. And if you have your ears open for that minor third, you can hear that switch really fast when somebody throws it out there. It sounded like Rick really started this one. I mean, it's also part of their bag of tricks, is that I think with this band, there's often an expectation that when they've sort of peaked out on an idea, the next step they're going to do is take it minor. Not always, but it's like it's part of their common vocabulary, and it keeps them able to just keep moving through ideas. A, to E, it goes back to the C sharp by way of that D sharp, but the chord's not really clean. And now they're going into the outro. A, you could hear that, it was a really clean drop altogether. So we got C sharp major, and we're gonna make good use of that flat 6. A major, down to F sharp major, down to E, to A, to B, and just to round it around. Rick, when he's soloing here, is going to flip-flop the scales he uses based on what chords are going by. But you can get a lot out of just arpeggiating the notes of the chords. This is where you can really just lean into it with an organ. Organ is great because you can really just hang on to the chords and slide your hands up to them. And it's so effective. Yeah, and on that C sharp, and that's it. It's such good stuff. That's really all there is to it. So we're in C sharp, my least favorite key, but at least we're having a great time playing it. Thank you for checking out the video. I'm going to try my best not to leave such a long gap before the next one comes out. Shoot me any requests you have. Leave me a comment. I love hearing from you all, and I'm so happy that you are all out there learning to play this wonderful music. So let's keep working on it together. Peace. See you next time.